So right then and there, Revelation 13 verse 10 is giving you the fulfillment of that prophecy that ended in 1798. Now, as the papacy was wounded to death, and the dealing wound was put, put to death back in 1798, it lets you know right then and there in 1798, across the Pacific Ocean, across the Atlantic Ocean, you had what? A Pacific nation growing during the same time when the dealing wound was put to death, according to Revelation 13 verse 3, which is dealing with one of the popes. So when you go to Revelation 13 verse 11, another beast power was coming up. So let's read it. I beheld, that's talking about John the beloved disciple as he was caught up in vision. I beheld another beast coming out of the earth. That's talking about a nation or kingdom coming up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he speak as a dragon. So what is this beast power that come up from the earth? Because this specific beast is totally different from the 4 beasts that came up from the sea. Because when you go across the Atlantic Ocean, this one beast come up from what? It don't come up from the sea, it come up from the earth. Let's find out what the earth is symbolic to, according to Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. Let's go to the book of Genesis. Let's go to Genesis. Genesis chapter 1. Let's start right here in verse 10 to break down what this beast come up from the earth and what do the earth means. It says right here in Genesis chapter 1 verse 10, and it reads, and God called the dry land earth. So earth is symbolic to what? Dry land. Now we're going to go back to Revelation chapter 13 verse 11, and I behold another beast come out from the earth that represents what? Dry land. Because when you go across the sea, of the Atlantic Ocean, it was one big landmass that came out of the earth that means dry land. And this big landmass back during that time, at the end of the prophecy of 1798 that was growing as a mighty nation was called what? We're going to find out. United States of America. I already said it already. But let's find out that this Revelation 13 verse 11 is talking about United States of America. Let's read the rest of verse 11. And he had 2 horns like a lamb. The specific beast. So it had 2 horns like a lamb. And what do 2 horns represent? Let's find out what horns represents. Let's go to Revelation chapter 17. Let's go right here to verse 12. Revelation 17 verse 12. And the 10 horns with thy swords are 10 kings. So we understand that 2 horns represent 2 kings. In other words, the kings of the 2 horns represents what? Principle. Because what kings give out in a nation, when a king speak and give out any certain policy, they give them forth principle. So this specific beast had 2 horns like a lamb. So the 2 horns represent 2 kings that represent principle, but this beast have a principle of a lamb. And who is the lamb? Go to John chapter 1 verse 29 when it says, behold, the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sin of the world. So who is that lamb? That lamb symbolizes who? Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? So the lamb represents what? Jesus Christ. And what are the 2 horns of the lamb? So the 2 horns represents what? Let's find out. What was the teaching of the lamb that America had adopted? Let's go to John chapter 8, starting with verse 32. John chapter 8, starting with verse 32. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So the teaching of the Lamb represents freedom. And let's go to another teaching or principle of the Lamb. So freedom is one of it. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Let's start right here in verse 17. Now the Lord is that Spirit. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. So freedom and liberty are interchangeable and means the same thing. So when you go back to Revelation chapter 13 verse 11, and I beheld another beast, which is a kingdom, come out of the earth that symbolizes dry land, and he had two horns like a lamb. The principles of the lamb represents what? Liberty. So when the United States was becoming a constitution, it adopted the principles of the lamb, which represents what? Republicanism and Protestantism, that represents civil and religious liberty, which is the principles of the lamb that's written in the Bible. So this beast power called America had adopted the two principles of the lamb, which is civil and religious liberty. And he speak as a dragon. That means that something else was going to come in to counterfeit the principles of the lamb that represents civil and religious liberty. Let's go right here to verse 12. And he exercised all the power of the first beast. That's talking about United States of America. And the first beast is talking about the first beast that we just read in Revelation chapter 13 verse 1, that represents what? The Roman Catholic system that had the 7 heads and 10 horns, when pagan Rome became what? Papal Rome, which is dealing with the Roman Catholic Church. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and he caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose daily womb was hell. And what we see right now going on, when the United States got established with the principles of the Lamb, you see the Protestant people of the United States becoming more ecumenical and forming alliances with the Pope of Rome. So right now, the United States of America that's dealing with Donald Trump right now, he has signed the Religious Liberty Act. He already signed those papers already, and what he have done is he have formed alliances with the Pope of Rome. And then you got the evangelical ministers, which are well known, like Kenneth Copeland and all these false prophets and false teachers that went along with joining the Pope in this one world religion. They had signed the papers, Donald Trump, along with his people that's in his office, which are the delegates, that went ahead and signed the Religious Liberty Act, which is dealing with what? The ecumenical movement of interfaith. That bring Muslims, that bring Buddhists, that bring Hindu, that bring the American Protestants, which are the apostate Protestants, to come together and join alliances with the Roman Catholic Church. And that's what it means right there in Revelation 13 verse 12. And he exercises all the power of the first beast. That's talking about the United States joining in with the Roman Catholic system before him, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose dealing womb was hell. And remember what Donald Trump has said when he got elected to become as president of the United States, that he would bridge the gap of church and state. So right now he's exercising the powers of the first beast. Because when you go back to pagan Rome, they had what? Taken over the Jewish Sanhedrin temple in religious services. Of the Pharisees and scribes. They allowed church and state to be blended together in pagan Rome. The same thing that took place in ancient Babylon, when Nebuchadnezzar